You open up your favorite news website and you start reading these headlines. Stocks fall as prospects dim for aid package as coronavirus spreads. Oil futures fall as Europe lockdowns feed demand concerns. Gold prices slip below $1,900 level as coronavirus lockdowns gain steam. I ask you, what do you think these all have in common? Well, they all take two or more most likely independent events and imply a causal link between them, which is most likely not true at all. In other words, they all say X happens as Y happens, as if to say that the reason for X happening is because of Y. Notice how they never say X happens because Y happens, because that would mean they definitely know that the reason for X happening is because of Y, which they don't know. In fact, most of these times, nobody knows the real reason, especially when it comes to the stock market. They just pretend to know why, and then they take two events that happen independently but at the same time and say, oh, this happened as the same time as this happened, it must be the cause. Now, yes, sometimes one thing is truly linked to the other and it's obviously the cause of the other thing, but many times it's just complete made up nonsense for a clickbait headline. And the thing you need to understand is the media does this all the time, and it's not just with the stock market. Those are just the most obvious frequent examples that I come across, so you always need to be very skeptical of media headlines. And the formula is always the same, and once you notice this, you'll start seeing it all the time. A journalist sees something happen and they want to write an article about it. Maybe it is a significant event, and maybe they want to add a little bit of spice to the article headline, and maybe they are even being disingenuous and want to imply that a politician caused this bad thing to happen. So they take these two events that just happen to happen at the same time, so they slap the two events together and use adjoining words such as or amid, and then baby, you got a clickbait headline going. Let's go over some of the examples I mentioned before. So first we have the one about gold. Gold prices slip below $1,900 level as coronavirus lockdowns gain steam. Now the first thing to notice is the title is saying that the gold prices are dropping in the headline, as if to say this is some big new thing and newsworthy in itself. And then they say the cause is that the lockdowns are gaining steam, or at least they imply that. So what's the reality? Well, let's take a look at the actual price of gold chart. These are the actual gold futures. So not only has the price of gold barely moved at all, it's basically the same as it's been for the past 3 days, but it's actually been trading mostly below $1,900 for nearly a month and has been steadily dropping since August. So why does this news article even exist? They're saying, oh, gold drops below $1,900 as if this is some newsworthy thing, but it's been doing that already for like a month. In my opinion, this is not real news. Here's another example we talked about treasury bonds. Treasury yields dip as traders weigh latest coronavirus and stimulus news. And then they put a nice stock photo of traders yelling and being rowdy and excited. Oh, this is a big deal. And even in the article text below, it says the 10-year treasury slipped to 0.7%. The 30-year bond rate dipped to 1.48%. And they even include a quote about the market's biggest worry right now. Oh, all very scary stuff, right? So again, let's take a look at what the actual reality of the situation is. Well, the 30-year treasury yield is down only 0.1% after a pretty good run-up. So there's a good chance it's just down a little bit because it was up way more recently. It's still higher than it's been for the past 3 months. And it's basically the same exact thing for the 10-year treasury yield chart. It looks very similar. It's at 0.73%, again, down less than 0.1%. And the media does this one in particular very frequently. The market has a great run-up. You know, there's a skyrocket in prices, things are doing great. And then when there's an inevitable pullback because the market does not move in one straight line, they say market plummets or market drops, and then they have fresh pickings of whatever random made-up causality reason they want to tag on to the end of the headline. And sometimes, if they're being especially devious, like I said before, they can say some politician did this thing at the same time as the market drops to imply that it's their fault, when really the only reason it dropped is because it went up a lot first. The third example is especially hilarious because they really double dipped on this one. Oil futures fall as Europe lockdowns feed demand concerns, but prices pair losses as weekly US supplies drop. Wow, they threw in two of them there. And then what's the reality, you may ask? Well, the price of oil is literally in the same range it's been for the entire past month. The price of oil is always volatile, so I think what they just do is wait for a part of the day where it drops to its low, and then they write a big article, oh, price of oil plummets, and then it doesn't matter what happens afterwards, even though it's pretty likely that it's gonna go back up. Well, they already got their article out at the right time, people see it and say, oh my god, the price of oil is dropping, and they don't even look at the chart and realize, No, it hasn't. It's the same exact price it's been for the past month, in the same range. It's like, wow, the prices of market equities go up and down sometimes? Who would have thought? Next up, I want to bring up a really genius concept called the Gell-Mann Amnesia effect. This was coined by an author named Michael Crichton, and he really best described the phenomenon himself. So I'll just read what he says. So he says, briefly stated, the Gell-Mann Amnesia effect is as follows. You open up the newspaper to an article on some subject you know well. In Murray's case, physics. In mine, show business. You read the article and see the journalist has absolutely no understanding of either the facts or the issues. Often, the article is so wrong, it actually presents the story backward, reversing cause and effect. I call these the wet streets cause rain stories. Paper's full of them. In any case, you read with exasperation or amusement the multiple errors in a story, and then turn the page to the national or international affairs and read as if the rest of the paper was somehow more accurate about Palestine than the baloney you just read. You turn the page and you forget what you know. The point is, the media is not always correct, and oftentimes they're actually super wrong. So you may read something about a topic that you're familiar with, you realize it's super wrong, but just kind of assume that the rest of the articles surely are not as bad as this one, when, yeah, they probably are, you're just not familiar with them, so you don't know it. And actually, this is probably something you have realized time to time, so now just be aware of it and remember next time. All of this just goes to show that you need to do some actual critical thinking, reading between the lines about everything you read, especially news headlines. If you are someone who just reads a headline that you saw posted on Twitter and then you don't even read the actual article, you better start reading it, because I've seen plenty of times where the actual text of the article goes on to describe literally the opposite of the headline. It's literally like the journalist is actually lying. It's actually horrible and pretty common these days. And there's plenty of ways journalists do it. This video just gave one example of implying false causality, but it's really up to you to just do critical thinking in the future. Be aware that everything you read in the headlines might not necessarily be true, and it's going to be up to you in the future to do it for yourself. And you know what? Yes, that includes watching my channel. There's probably times where I do think I know what I'm talking about, but I'm not correct. So always do your own research and read more up about a topic if you think it's interesting, especially if it's something that you're getting angry about. Always read more facts, multiple points of view, and you might find things aren't as bad or as good as they seem in some kind of news opinion. So hopefully you learned something in this video. If you guys want to keep watching, the next video I'd recommend is one where I was talking about why the stock market could possibly be up if the economy is doing so bad. I think I did a really good explanation. I'm really proud of that video, so I'll put that link right there. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.